Hello, dear friends. Patrick here. Monday, June 10th. I'm 2024, getting through a review of the Case for Christ. Today, we're going to cover quickly chapters 7, 8, 9, and 10. 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I'll just mention quickly what jumped out at me. And the rest I will put in the notes below this video, the description below this video. So chapter 7, the identity evidence. They're looking at whether Jesus was convinced that he was divine, that he was the Son of God. And we see, as they mention in modern depictions of Jesus, such as the movie The Last Temptation of Christ, they make him appear as if he is uncertain about his identity and mission, whereas from the biographies of his life and all accounts about him from Scripture, that he indeed knew who he was and what his mission was. Church historians have pointed out that the oldest Christian sermon, the oldest account of a Christian martyr, the oldest pagan report of the church, and the oldest liturgical prayer all refer to Jesus as Lord and God. Clearly, it was the message of what the church believed, the early church, and taught that God was an appropriate name for Jesus Christ. That's on page 139. Jesus makes the statement, I and the Father are one. This whole chapter runs into a lot of difficulty because of the characteristics of the incarnation. I would comment on it further than what is talked about in this chapter, but I'm not going to do that here. I'll let the book speak for itself, and maybe when I have time in the future, I will try and make some commentary on that, just because I feel like they might have left out certain aspects of how some of these incarnation inconsistencies could be resolved. Anyway, so yeah, there's a couple of quotes there that I'll include in the notes. Chapter 8, the psychological evidence. He does an interview with a guy by the name of Gary Collins, who has his PhD in psychology and all that stuff. And this is asking the question where, he might have, whether Jesus may have had delusions or something like that, right? He mentions this guy, Charles Templeton, and Charles Templeton was a contemporary of Billy Graham, where Billy Graham went in one direction and Charles Templeton went in the exact opposite and became essentially an atheist and came up with all kinds of ideas to try and explain away the life of Jesus. This guy Templeton tried to say that Jesus was simply using placebo effect, or the power of suggestion to heal people. It's ridiculous, when you have somebody whose arm is all withered and then you tell him to stretch out his arm, it becomes whole. That's not psychosomatic. That's, or healing leprosy. You can't heal 10 lepers at a time just by the power of suggestion, or feeding the 5,000, or many other miracles that Jesus did. And an interesting quote that he puts here on page 151, he said, it is amazing how people will grasp at anything to try to disprove Jesus' miracles. And that is really a fact. I mean, people have come up with all kinds of theories to try and debunk what the history details were the miracles of Christ. Chapter 9, the profile evidence. Did Jesus fulfill the attributes of God? And he does an interview with a guy by the name of Donald Carson. Very interesting. And here again, we go through the mystery of the incarnation, the attributes of God from the Old Testament, and then the attributes of Jesus in the New, and how they correlate, how they dovetail together. He again quotes Charles Templeton when he's dealing with the problem of evil and the difficulty that people have with the concept of a hell, and that is addressed really well, and that is a very common atheist objection. So I'll try and include a couple of quotes down below from that. Chapter 10 is called The Fingerprint Evidence, and he does an interview with Louis Lapides. And this is probably the most powerful chapter that I have read so far, because what happens is he interviews a Messianic Jew, a fellow that was born Jewish, and this guy basically gives his life story about his upbringing, how he went and served in Vietnam, how he came back, got all kinds of education, and became a teacher, sought out all kinds of Eastern religions to try and find knowledge of truth, and how he eventually found the Old Testament scriptures that described the coming Messiah and how they were clearly fulfilled in the person of Jesus Christ. And he gives his personal story, and it is a very, very powerful chapter, chapter 10. I would recommend any atheist to read that chapter, or any Jewish person for that matter. They might find a lot of enlightenment in it, because he gives his firsthand perspective as a Jewish person, and it is very enlightening, very eye-opening stuff that I have never heard from that perspective before. So there you go, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And chapter 10 ends with the statement from from Luke, Luke chapter 24, where he says, "Everything must be fulfilled that is written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms." That was a quote that Jesus mentioned in Luke chapter 24. And all these things from Moses, the prophets, and Psalms were fulfilled, and they were filled only in Jesus, the only individual in history who has matched the prophetic fingerprint of God's anointed one. Hence the title for the chapter, The Fingerprint Evidence. It matches perfectly the life of Jesus, his deeds, his words, all the circumstances of his birth, things that were totally outside of his control, his lineage, things that happened to him externally that he could have no influence on himself, were fulfilled through his life, death, and resurrection. So there you go, chapter 7, 8, 9, and 10. Just a brief summary for you, and I'm going to try and, I don't know if I'll be able to post this video today or not, but I'll give it a go, and we'll keep moving forward. We're a little over halfway, so we're making good progress, and I hope you're doing well. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching, and we shall talk to you very, very soon. I love you. Take good care of yourself, and don't forget to spend time with people you love. Bye for now.